Hey everyone, this is Joe Turner, host of City Manager Unfiltered, and I'm recording this special message after the podcast episode you're about to listen to between myself and Micah Gaudet. In this episode, we talk about how you, the public sector professional, can level up and leverage ChatGPT today to add value in the workplace and put your career trajectory on a rocket ship. Towards the end of this interview, I challenged him to create a comprehensive multi-week course that would take a deep dive into ChatGPT and artificial intelligence that would be specifically aimed at public sector professionals like you. There's nothing like this in the marketplace, and we believe our audience is comprised of ambitious public sector executives that are looking to get ahead. And what better way to do that than to have access to a comprehensive course that's going to give you a deep dive, a deep look into ChatGPT and show you how to use it in the workplace today for actual public sector tasks and projects and uses. So I've asked him to put this together, but first we're looking to see what kind of interest there is out there. So in the show notes, there is a link to a form where you can sign up and express your interest in having access to a ChatGPT course that is specifically designed for public sector professionals. So please look in the show notes for that. You can also look on my profile page on LinkedIn, and you can also look at Micah Gaudet's profile page on LinkedIn for this link to this sign up form. If there is enough interest, then I think Micah will be able to put together this course, and I think you guys are going to really love it because he's does nothing but quality work. And I think you're going to really get a kick out of it. All right. So here's the episode. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support. And till next time. All right. My name is Joe Turner, and I'm the host of City Manager Unfiltered, a podcast by a city manager for city managers and other public sector executives. And I'm coming at you from Wichita, Kansas, where they actually serve cinnamon rolls with their chili. I don't know if anyone knew that. It was new to me. I literally thought they were hazing me, but it's legit. They serve cinnamon rolls with their chili out here, and they love it. I'm really excited about my guest today. His name is Micah Gaudet. He's been an early follower of mine on LinkedIn, and we've developed a friendship, and I just can't say enough good things about him. He's a quality person, just a lot of thoughtful comments on LinkedIn, and I've really enjoyed getting to know him. He's just an all-around solid guy, and he's one of those guys where, you just want to hang around with, you want to be in the same bus, and we've talked about doing some projects and what have you, and I'm just really excited about how that friendship's developing and where it's going, and I'm really excited to have him on the podcast. Hey, Micah, are you a member of the ICMA?
I am not, and I also don't eat cinnamon rolls with my chili either. So that's a no go on both ends.
Right. Well, the reason why I bring that up is just because I was listening to a podcast recently. I've been going through and obviously studying some podcasts and trying to do some research and just sort of bone up on my skills. And I came across this podcast where they're talking about essentially the only good city managers are members of ICMA, or as if ICMA had cornered the market on elite, talented, ethical managers. And I took offense to that, and it's something I really want to talk about at a later date, because I consider you to be extremely ethical and an elite individual, very talented. And I consider myself to be similarly talented and ethical. And so I took a great offense at that. Yeah, it's just something I'm really going to want to dig into at a later date, because I think there's a lot of quality individuals who are in the city management profession, who are public sector executives, who are not part of the ICMA. And it just rubbed me the wrong way on that one. So, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, Joe. I think it's one of those things that it's important to have a set of ethics, and it's important to have a guiding set of principles to go by. My only counter is that my set of ethics is about 6,000 years old, and theirs is less than 100 years old. And so I think I'll stick with the one that's a little older, a little more time tested.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's get to this introduce this episode here. You're one of my first guests on the show, Micah, and I really want to just do nothing but bangers. I'm not interested
Hmm.
in having any fluffy content. I want to respect the fact that the majority of my listening audience are public sector executives. They're busy individuals. They have limited time, and my goal is to create content that is extremely useful, valuable, and doesn't waste anybody's time. I want nothing but bangers. When we start sitting down talking about doing an episode on ChatGPT, it's easy to get off into the theory and the theoretical and what it can
Yep.
do and what's the
Yep.
potential. But I really want to drill down and give actionable items real world application of this technology that individuals can actually go and do today to level up and produce value within their organization and to be a benefit to the taxpayers who are ultimately paying our salaries. That's going to be the focus of this podcast, is
Mm-hmm.
providing our listeners with real actionable steps to get on to ChatGPT, learn it, so forth and so on, and also what they can do with it in the real world today, right now. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great, Joe. I think that speaks really to your content as a whole. When I first came into your LinkedIn page, it was really driven because you were saying things that that a lot of folks weren't comfortable saying, right? You were speaking truth to power, to use that catchphrase, but you were speaking in a way that really fought for city managers in a way that has never, in my experience, has never been done before. And so I think your podcast is an extension of that, an extension of just the unfiltered, real life, here's what we need as city managers, and ChatGPT is primed for that. And instead of focusing on the theories of people who think they know what they're talking about and end up you're just kind of babbling on for an hour or so, I love the idea of getting into the weeds and talking about here's some real life applications that every single listener can go home after they're done listening to this podcast. After they give it that 5-star review, like and subscribe, folks. After that's all done, they can go ahead and log into ChatGPT and get started and make a positive impact in their community.
I think that would be a good time for us to do a little brief introduction, Micah, kind of tell the audience what you're all about and where you've been and just where you're at now, and just give a quick little background. We can jump into some more content here.
Yeah, Joe. So I'm kind of new to this. I say new, relatively new to the city management world. I grew up and did a lot of stuff with the intelligence focus. I came out here to Arizona about 5 years ago and was working as the director of crime strategies for the fourth largest prosecuting office in the entire country, Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Did that for a little bit, and then once the head of the county attorney's office changed over, I was high enough the totem pole to lose my job as a result of that. And so I wound up going down to the city of Nogales, which is my first really local government job. And I did public housing, which was a lot of fun, a lot of work, learned some great Spanish, had some great Mexican food as a result of that. And that opened up the path for me into city management, which I've loved. And so I was former town manager of a small mining town about an hour and a half to an hour east of the Phoenix area in the mountains here in Gila County, Arizona, a little town called Miami, or locals pronounce it Miami. And then a little bit about a year ago, I transitioned and had an opportunity to come over to the city of Maricopa, which is the 12th fastest growing city in this country, the second fastest in the entire state of Arizona. And I'm the deputy city manager over all of public safety. So one of the things that's really fun too, Joe, is as a fast growing city, we are constantly looking at ways to gain efficiencies. We're constantly looking at ways to be more productive in what we're doing and do the right things, right? Not to be productive, but do the right things. And one of our mantras is that we don't want to benchmark against other cities. We want other cities to benchmark against us. And so, in light of that, I started playing around with ChatGPT, and we can get into that later, kind of how that all came to be. But I started playing around with ChatGPT internally because I wanted to be more efficient and because I wanted to make sure that we were, the tip of the spear, as it were, when it comes to how we're delivering services to our local government residents and our friends and guests of the city of Maricopa.
I love that. I love the idea of having not benchmarking ourselves against someone else, but setting that example, setting that model for others to benchmark and draw inspiration upon from ourselves. And I really like what you guys are doing over there in Maricopa. I get a really good vibe, really good sense of the leadership team over there, based off some conversations I've had on LinkedIn with some other individuals, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to be doing over there in the future. Obviously, with ChatGPT and using that to level up, improve the efficiency and efficacy of the organization. I do have to make a
Yeah,
quick aside. So I grew up in Southern California, right? And you just said Gila, which I think is spelled Gila, right?
correct. That is correct. It's Gila, Gila County, like the
So
Gila monster.
I've been saying Gila my entire life, I think. So, and a funny deal over here in Kansas. We have something called the Arkansas River. It's spelled Arkansas, but they don't call it the Arkansas River. They call it the Arkansas.
Nice,
So, and
nice.
you will expose yourself as being an out of stater if you say Arkansas River real quick. So, uh,
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah.
That's
So we got
funny.
Gila and Arkansas. So yeah,
There
learn
you go.
something new every day. So, hey, Micah, in the first couple episodes, I kind of laid out a little bit of a mission statement I have for my LinkedIn and this podcast and what I'm building and trying to accomplish, and I've talked about building community. I think that's very important. There's a lot of loneliness, isolated, disconnectedness with us in our profession. And so I want to build a stronger community. And also, the second thing I've talked about a lot is promoting personal and professional development.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I think this is a great interview to start with here because you and I have hit those first two components nail on the head. And I guess I'd start with this. Our relationship's been growing and developing over the last several months and what have you.
Hmm.
And you reached out to me. I don't know. It's actually been probably a couple months now. I forget when it was. And you said, "Hey, Turner, I'm gonna be heading up to Kansas City for a conference here in the near future." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And we're like, "Hey, let's get together and let's see if we can meet up and what
Yeah.
have you." I want to thank you for reaching out because I think city managers need to be more aggressive and proactive in reaching out to our peers when we're going in and stopping in and just introducing ourselves when we can and just try to make more connections, more real connections with our peers. And I was wondering if you might want to expand on that a little bit.
Absolutely, Joe. I think there's some benefits to things like LinkedIn and the connection we can make there. I also think it's critical to have meaningful relationships and in-person relationships as much as possible. And so when I knew I was going to be in your state there in the state of Arkansas, I figured why not come out and say hi, right? So,
That's right.
but
It's
yeah,
our Kansas now.
it's your
Yeah.
Kansas. Yeah, it's your
Yeah.
Kansas. Yeah. And so
You know,
I figured I'm gonna have to deal with some terrible barbecue. So why not hang out with Joe Turner for a little bit too to make it worthwhile? I'm gonna have to deal with some really
uh,
dry. I need lots of barbecue sauce. But no, Joe. So I think those relationships are important, and it's something you touched in the first episode about the need for community, the fact that we're not alone. You think about how many city managers are willing to, at the drop of the hat, to help out, right? And you mentioned never being big time before, asking for help or things like that. And so just to take that a step further and realize that, if we're going to be in the area now, you definitely went above and beyond because you drove about 3+ hours to come out to Kansas City and hang out with me and things like that, which is a lot of fun, and braved a tornado on the way back too. So
that's
like,
correct. Well, you're worth it. You're a good guy, and I was excited to meet you. And it's funny. As I was driving up, and I probably shouldn't admit this, but as I was driving up, I was checking my LinkedIn feed, and I noticed that Joe Fry, gentleman from Colorado, he
yeah,
was at the conference, and I'd never met him, but he was a connection. And I said, "Hey, Joe, I'm heading up to Kansas City to meet with Micah Gaudet. I don't know if you've met him or not." I was like, "Would you like to, come hang out with us?" And he was like, "Sure." He was excited. And so we sat down and we over a couple hours we had some drinks and we talked and we conversed. we, I,
yep,
I, I don't know if I want to use the word fellowship, but it was like a fellowship of professional city managers. We weren't exactly talking shop per se. We were just getting to know each other.
yeah,
And during that conversation, we started talking about, I think you talked about ChatGPT and how it caught your attention.
yeah.
And I said something to the effect of like, well, hell, I've been seeing ChatGPT all over the place. And it's something I'm really excited to learn more about, but I don't even know where to get started. I don't even know where to even, I honestly didn't even know what
Hmm.
to do to even, yeah, I didn't know nothing. Right. And I said, "Hey, why don't you do something on LinkedIn or put on a seminar or something like that?" And I don't know, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, Joe. So I was kind of just a fan of it, using it internally, very, very simply using it, right? And you challenged me to come out and do this like a LinkedIn webinar of sorts. I don't think you used, like, we just said, hey, do something for city managers, introducing them how to use ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
And so at first I kind of, like, to be honest with you, at first kind of blew you off, like, I don't know. It seems like, who am I to talk about ChatGPT? I really don't understand all the workings of it. But then I thought, you know what the heck? Why not go after it, right? Why not just try put myself out there, put something together? Maybe we can help one or two people, and most importantly, maybe we can learn a few things from some people that are already adopting it before even I did. And so
Right.
I put that together, and I had over 200 people sign up to be part of that discussion. And since then, the results have been even ongoing even to this day. Like literally today, I got a message from someone on LinkedIn asking me how to do something in ChatGPT. And
Yeah.
so it's been a little surreal to be seen as kind of a go-to person in ChatGPT because, like, I'll be honest, I don't know all the inner workings of what a large language model means or vector database solutions or anything like that. I'm just a fan of it. And so I think of myself more as a race car driver than a race car mechanic. I know how to get behind the wheel and I know how to get results done with it. And I'm sure there's a lot more than I haven't even scratched the surface in terms of what we've done with it so far. It's
That's
crazy.
interesting. It's interesting to say that because I think I talked about imposter syndrome a little bit in episode 1. I literally got an email today about, I don't know, about an hour ago before we started taping the show. Someone asked me for some questions about contracts and their contracts. I've had individuals ask me to look at their contracts or look at their resume, that kind of stuff. It's really surreal feeling at first because I'm like, I'm not an expert. Who am I to be giving advice to somebody about their
Exactly. Yeah,
contract?
exactly. It feels
Right?
weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I've gotten over that a little bit. It still feels weird. Don't get me wrong. But I've gotten over it because it's been replaced with a sense of fulfillment and
Hmm.
gratification and satisfaction of being able to help appear. And that's something that I've really enjoyed about LinkedIn, and never in a million years thought was going to happen. I never in a million years thought it would lead to me having a friendship with a Micah Gaudet, and lead to me having these other meaningful friendships that are developing with other individuals, and also learning new stuff, and having that sense of fulfillment. And it's just been an
Yeah.
exciting journey. I've really liked it. And I gets back to that community and why I want to create more community and get more people conversing with each other. I just think it leads to so many different opportunities. And in a nutshell, we met on LinkedIn, which
Hmm.
turns into meeting in person. Right. We had
Hmm.
a very organic, just friendly get together. It turns into a conversation about ChatGPT, and now
Yep.
you're running with it. And who knows where this is all going to go? Right. It's just exciting stuff, exciting times. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
and it's the power of community, right? It's the power of community, and I know that no matter what happens, we still have a strong community, right? And that's one of the most
that's
important
correct.
things about our profession.
Right. So real quick before we get into the actual meat of the episode,
Okay.
talk about so when we both had interesting journeys home from that conference, because the same night that I went up and drove 3.5 hours to see you, I had to drive back and I got stuck in a tornado,
Yes.
literally a
Yep.
tornado storm, a tornado, right? I was at a Brahms, which is like a local McDonald's for lack of a better description. So they put us all in the cooler, the freezer area to
No
wait
way.
out this tornado.
No way.
I had literally just ordered and paid, so I was like stuck and pot committed because I didn't want to leave my
Did you at least get
10
your
bucks
food
behind.
though? Did you at least get your food before you had to
No,
enter the locker?
no, no. I was so annoyed because
Ah,
no, I didn't get the food right, and then they had my $10, and I'm like, I need to get a refund here
of
or get my
course,
food.
of
But they
course.
had a rule that they couldn't turn whatever reason they couldn't turn the grills back on for another 15 minutes, and I'm like, man, I got to get home. I'm already gonna get home
Yes.
past midnight at this point,
That's annoying.
So then I drove
Oh
home
man.
hungry, which I don't know what's worse, being hangry or I don't know.
Oh man,
I
that's rough. That's very
so
very rough.
but I'm not the only one who had an ordeal getting home from the conference, and I was wondering if you could shed a little light on your situation.
Yeah, so my flight was canceled. I flew in a layover in Salt Lake City, coming back from Kansas City back to Phoenix, and my flight from Salt Lake City was canceled back to Phoenix, and the next ones were supposed to arrive, leave around like 12 o'clock the next day. And I've visited Salt Lake City several times. I like the city, but I wasn't looking to spend a whole day there this time around. To be honest with you, Joe, I went on ChatGPT and because all the websites were down too. There's also an issue with all the websites being down and stuff like that.
Okay.
I was trying to look for flights, and so I thought, well, there's this plugin through Expedia. I've heard about this in the news before. Let me try this out. So I went on ChatGPT and said, find me a flight from Salt Lake City to Phoenix and rank it by departure time. And it did. It found me the Southwest flight. Long story short, it was a standby flight, but I was able to be, I think, the last person on that flight. And instead of leaving at 12 p.m. the next day, I arrived in Phoenix around 7 a.m. the next day. So I
That's
got there
awesome.
about a couple hours earlier, and it was worth it. But ChatGPT saved my flight.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I think I know the story, but wasn't there also a special guest on that flight, or am I confusing that flight with a different one?
Yes, so that was the flight from Kansas City to Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Mike Tyson was on that flight, and so I grabbed a quick selfie with him because I thought, well, what am else? Like, that's pretty cool. It's sitting right there in the first row. You first enter the plane. It's like, let me grab the selfie with Iron Mike. That's pretty awesome.
That
Yeah,
is awesome.
that's
So
pretty cool. So
yeah, so yeah,
that's the background screen on my phone because I don't know if I can ever top that yet. So
that's
we'll
awesome.
see. We'll
Awesome.
see who we come across that tops Iron Mike Tyson. Who knows?
I love it. Mike Tyson and Chat GPT on the way from Kansas City to Arizona.
Yeah.
Oh man, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so let's get into a discussion about Chat GPT now. I said at the outset, we're going to talk about the nitty gritty, what you can really do with it, right? Not the theory.
Yep. Yep.
But before we get into that hardcore, what's your take on ChatGPT as far as its impact on the future and the profession and whatnot? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? There's a lot of people out there who have different takes, and there's some concern, there's some fears. I just wonder what your thoughts were in general.
I am very, very optimistic about the future of it. Right? Is it going to disrupt the way things are done? Absolutely, but I'm not convinced that's a bad thing. I look at ChatGPT in the same way I look at Microsoft Word back in the 1980s when it first came out, or the word processing kind of softwares. And it's to the point now where if we have any type of office job, no matter how skilled that individual is, no matter how dedicated, no matter whatever skills they have, if they don't know how to use a word processor, we're not going to hire that person. And I think the same thing's going to be said in a few years about ChatGPT and generative AI. I think it's going to become indispensable to the workforce. Now, that can be scary to some folks. It excites me because what that does is it really levels up and highlights those who are good at their jobs. And those who are good at their jobs always find new jobs. Might not be the same career field, but they always find something, always land in somewhere. And ChatGPT is an equalizer. It makes things, it takes off that BS layer kind of, you know what I'm saying? It takes that
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And now we can really see who's who and what's what, and it removes all the fluff, removes all the pizzazz and whatnot behind it, and we can kind of see what's what. And I think that's awesome for our profession because I think
Yeah.
it's exactly what a profession needs. We need some realism, we need some authenticity, and we need to see people who are willing to get things done and actually achieve results in this profession and not just make a paycheck.
That's an interesting comment, and I want to come back to that last comment you just made. But I will tell you, I do have a little bit of FOMO. I'm not really a guy who gets FOMO, but I am a little bit kind of on edge about this because I feel like it's evolving really quickly. And I just feel like everything in this world now is evolving so quickly with such rapidity. But I think elite, talented individuals will always be okay. So it's like
Absolutely.
I don't think elite.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think elite individuals have anything to fear. I think it's those who are mediocre or sub mediocre are the ones that should be very concerned, and they maybe need to step up their game on this front. But I want to elaborate on a point you just made. It's like I'm not a traditional entrant into city management, public sector. I have a different sort of background. My belief system is that my job as a city manager or as a public sector executive is to return value to our shareholder taxpayers, right? The people who pay the bills to keep the lights on. And
100% act with you. That's exactly right.
yeah, and I just like, the people did not get around one day and sit around a campfire and say, you know what we really need to do? We need to create some mechanism to where I need to go to work every day and earn a paycheck so that I can pay somebody to be a public government worker, right? Like that's not why people created government. Government was created to protect life, liberty, and property, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we as public sector employees, we are public servants, right? That's the whole nomenclature,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
We don't exist just to exist. We exist to provide value to our taxpayers, the ones who keep the lights on and pay our bills. There's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn about servant leadership and all this stuff, and there's a
Hmm.
place for it. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I'm all for paying employees fair wages. I'm all for good leadership, right? I'm all for having healthy relationships in the workforce. But sometimes I
Yep.
feel like it gets a little bit too focused on employee satisfaction or leadership and this other stuff, and we lose sight of the fact that, hey, we are in business to solve problems for our residents, for our taxpayers, and to provide them the services that they are demanding. That's where our focus needs to be. I don't really give a damn about being boss of the year or have a going away party thrown for me whenever I leave. That's not
Hmm.
what I am. That is not what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I'm worried about providing value to our taxpayers. So sorry for that little rant, that little segue.
No, I think
Uh,
you're right on, Joe. You're 100% right about the need to keep the community in mind and make sure we're returning value to the community. Absolutely correct.
So let's get on the Chat GPT then, right? So
Yeah.
the nitty gritty, right? How do people who are listening to this podcast right now? We want to show them how to get on Chat GPT and
Yep.
tell them what they can do so they can provide value and so that they can level up their career. Okay, so I'll let you take over. How does somebody just start with Chat GPT? What's the first step?
Okay. So here's the long, very complicated steps to ChatGPT, Joe. First off, you're going to go to a site called openai.com. You're going to click on ChatGPT. You're going to click sign up, enter your email address and your password, It's going to send you a link, like a confirmation link. Click the link in your email, and then you are in ChatGPT. So
That's it.
it's as easy as that. It's really simple. If you've signed up for literally anything on the internet before, it's as easy, if not easier than that.
All right. So openai.com, provide them with
Yep,
an email address, and confirm the email address, and that's it.
that's it. That's literally
Okay.
it. Yeah, super simple.
Okay. So you go in there. You got it up on your computer. Now what? What's the next step?
So the next step is to start kind of playing around with it and start using it. And so I'll walk through, Joe, some of the things that I think are ways that your listeners can start using this right here, right now, really easily.
Okay.
One of my favorite ways to do it is to take emails, right? And so I call it my be nice mode, because sometimes in the heat of a moment, email comes through and your emotions run high, right? So I've literally taken an email and put my unfiltered thoughts in there and said, make this sound nicer. And ChatGPT filters it all through me and makes it sound a lot more professional, a lot nicer, and able to do it that way instead of sending off an email that probably get me in trouble and would be more damage than the 2 seconds of dopamine that was worth. But
I could definitely use that option in my
yeah, it's
emails.
pretty.
That's for sure.
So another part of it too is sometimes you get emails come through and it's all these, especially the different vendors that you get, right? It's super annoying, all these different vendors, and part of you feels like you should respond just to be nice because they have jobs and people too.
Yeah.
So what I've done for that is I just put that email to ChatGPT and say, politely respond, declining to move forward with this individual. And it takes it 2 seconds, and I save my time. They get a nice response. Everybody's happy at the end of the day, and we can go on with our lives. So
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff you can do in terms of with email creation and responding to emails. You can also go in the same idea of it too. Is you can also use it for document creation, right? So anything you're doing in Microsoft Word, ChatGPT can help you assist you with. So if you're writing a memo, if you're writing a letter, if you're drafting a job description, I've used it to write job descriptions for new positions or policies. Right now, the typical way of doing things in local government or government in general is you have a policy you're creating, right? Whether it be, say, a social media policy or a
Right.
job description for a grant writer. And the typical way of doing it is you put something out on a listserv, or you go on Google and search for that policy, and you try to find about maybe 3 to 5 different city policies that are about that, and you'd kind of create this hodgepodge of different policies all together.
Yeah. This
And
Frankenstein approach, right?
exactly,
This.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, Joe, yeah, yeah, the Frankenstein approach, and that's kind of what you go with. And it's not specific to your community. It's I'm not even sure if it really addresses the specific needs of why you created that policy in the first place. Because I joke that every policy has a sponsor, and so it doesn't really address what the situation is in the first place. It's kind of this hodgepodge thing, and it's more of a CYA thing at the end of the day than it is something of real value and something that's going to help move your organization forward.
So true. So true, that CYA part, in the policies. A lot of times it's just, well, you just got to get something done to put it out there, right? It's like,
Exactly.
are we
Yeah.
really drafting it for our specific needs and purposes? Are we really spending that much time on it to examine whether or not it's truly going to tackle the issues that we're facing? Or is it just, hey, slap something on there and call it a day and move on to the next issue that we got to tackle?
Exactly. So, for instance, if I'm going to create a social media policy, and say my reason for creating this policy is to maxim or to unify the brand name of the city, right? So I have this unified brand name. I want my social media policy to capture that. I can tell ChatGPT, create a social media policy for the city of blah 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 city that captures the brand name, and I can put in there, say we have a tagline, right? So we have a city motto of, like, eat well, be happy, blah, blah, one of those kind of things like that, right?
Right.
I can put that tagline in there, and then ChatGPT is going to spit out a policy that exactly demonstrate or exactly speaks to the specific needs of what I want to do in terms of that brand name, in terms of the social media policy, and I can spit out something that's actually unique and tailored to my community instead of relying on that Frankenstein approach.
So, it's interesting you say that because there's a completely different approach, right, to using ChatGPT versus using a traditional Google search, right, where individuals are used to typing out a short phrase, or they might even do a sentence, right, if you're looking for something really obscure or whatnot. But generally speaking,
Yep.
the Google searches are nothing like a ChatGPT search. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so Google searches, you're searching for something, one thing, and you're hoping that one thing falls within the Google triangle, the first couple search results that you see on your Google page. ChatGPT, and again, I'm really pushing my boundaries, Joe, in terms of what I'm probably authorized to speak about, but I do my best to explain as much as I know how. So ChatGPT is a large language model, which means it's trained on lots and lots and lots of data across all the internet, across multiple generations. It's trained in all this data. And so when you ask it a question, like it's called a prompt, is what the technical term for it is. When you ask it a question or tell it a statement, a prompt, it's taking all the information it's learned and coming up with an answer that it thinks best matches the prompt that you gave it. So when I ask about a social media policy, it's going to take that question and it's going to take all the information it knows about social media policies, about policies in general, all the stuff like that, all the different languages it knows, and craft a response that tries to best match that question.
So, when you think about Google, right, you talk about keyword search, right? There's a lot of stuff like with SEO, search engine
Yep,
optimization, keyword search, right? And it's like a short phrase usually, right? You're talking about this conversation, a prompt more like this conversation. You're talking about literally writing like, a paragraph of detail to give to ChatGPT to provide you with something more substantive, correct?
exactly. So ChatGPT, I think it's about 200 words is when it starts kind of getting funky in
Okay.
terms of if you put a prompt in, about two, which is
Okay.
a lot, right? You think
That's a
about how
massive.
that's a
Yeah, that's
massive,
massive.
and
Yeah.
it's they're called tokens, Joe, and so it's roughly, I think, from my experience, about 200 words. And someone else could say, no, it's 150 words. I don't know. So,
Right.
but just in my experience, about roughly 200 words. I try to keep it under 200 words when I put prompts in there. So, but it can summarize a large swaths of data. It's really remarkable, and so the ability to kind of to quickly summarize this information, analyze it at really just lightning speed is incredible.
So you got emails, you got letters, it can write memos for you, right?
Yep.
It can do
You can do
uh,
job
pop
descriptions. Yep.
job descriptions, well, policies, different types of
Yep.
policies it can write, everything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What else can it do, or what else would you expand on it? I mean, let's talk about policies real quick, right? So literally,
Yeah.
you're saying that when it comes to a personnel manual, when it comes to a social media policy, when it comes to a utility billing practices, all that kinds of stuff, that can be done in Chat GPT. There's
Absolutely.
sky's the limit.
And Joe,
Right
I'll
right
go
now right now you
yes,
can do it.
I will I will go one step further, and I post this video on my YouTube channel a couple days ago where I took a social media policy and had a plugin called HeyGen literally generate a AI video for me that where this AI generated lady was summarizing the policy for a training video and was specific to that policy.
That's crazy. That's
So
crazy.
it's to me, it's amazing what this thing can do. So other things it can do, and that's the ChatGPT 4 model. I want to talk more about the 3.5 model right now, the regular one that people are using. That way,
Well,
folks
what's
can
what's
have
the
real.
difference?
The difference is about $20.
Okay.
So that's the difference. Yeah, yeah. So
And so
that's the
one's
difference.
free and one's $20 a month or something, or what?
Yep, yep. One's a Brahms sandwich and a little bit more away from ChatGPT Plus. So
Oh, man. Okay. So let's talk about the free model that we all have access to then.
yeah. So, and going back to the policies, right? Because policy creation should be a thoughtful process. In most cities, it is, and I hope that that's the case in our listener cities as well here. And so, what I can do with ChatGPT is I can use ChatGPT as kind of a QA, QC, or an editor for policies, right? So I have a sample policy come in. I had one just past week actually, where I had a sample policy come through from a team member of mine, and I was able to put a chat GPT and have it tell me, okay, what are the second and third order effects of this policy? What are the unintended consequences? What are the positives with it? Give me a list of pros and cons that go along with this policy. And so I can get some deep level insights when it comes to document creation. Because face it, most of the time when we get, and I've used this also for like say a business case request or a purchase of a new technology, or but when we're getting these types of requests from our team, it's biased, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't write me to buy this new widget, whatever it was. And so I can kind of filter through the bias behind it and really get to what are the implications of this step. What can
Wait,
do?
I gotta stop you there, Micah. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm trying to wrap my head around this because you just kind of blew the lid off my brain. You're telling me that you can actually put in a document into ChatGPT and ChatGPT will analyze it? Because I thought this whole time you put a prompt into ChatGPT and you just simply got information back from the internet is where the ChatGPT went and got it. You're telling me you can actually feed it information and it will actually do analysis for you and give you information.
exactly, Joe. So if I put in the chat GPT, if I say, give me the pros and cons of this, and then below this, I copy and paste that item or that paragraph, whatever it is, into ChatGPT, and it says, "Well, based on this analysis of this section, here's the pros and cons, and blah blah blah," and it goes on and on and on.
That's
So
that's crazy.
I've
That's remarkable.
I've done this for policies. I've done this for, we call them business cases in my city. So requests for like new technology or new items. I used it extensively during the last budgeting process. I've also used it for contracts, for IGAs, where I'm putting in there and saying, okay, according to this IGA, what are the unintended consequences? It spit out all the things I was missing. I said, okay, now go ahead and update the IGA that mitigates all those risks. And of course, you still send it to the attorney. But normally, when I send something to the attorney, I have it comes, if I write it on black and white paper, it comes back red and white because all the edits and all the errors and things like that. And this one had relatively few errors because ChatGPT did a phenomenal job recognizing the liabilities to the city and putting in language that helped protect the city from liability, which is
So
incredible skill set.
So do you even see a use, for example, with like say bargaining units doing demand letters or something and sending something to say, hey, we want this in our contract, or say you got some sort of social welfare organization or some sort of public policy organization or
Yep.
grassroots organization, they're sending in some sort of demand letter saying, hey, we want you to support this because of this reason. So you can run that through and actually get responses and maybe craft some talking points or what have you.
Absolutely, yeah. You can even say, so if say it you want to say it doesn't make sense for your city and you're having a hard time figuring out how to articulate that, you have that in mind but you're not sure how to exactly word that. You can tell ChatGPT, and you kind of fumble around with your words too, and you can say, well, here's what I'm thinking with this. Make this sound more cohesive. Make this sound better, and it can do that for you. It can respond to that request for funding or that request for whatever support that is. So
So
it can. It's pretty powerful.
So if you want to do some sort of counter rejection letter to say a bargaining unit's demands or whatever, you can basically get some sort of analysis, have a letter drafted, right, and send
Yeah.
that. And then you
Absolutely,
can
yeah.
do, in the words of in the words of Dalton from Roadhouse, right? You can do the "be nice"
Yes,
message, right, for the, for
exactly.
the
Yeah,
if
and
you
it also and here's the thing too, right?
be
Because it's
nice,
so in collective bargaining, it's important to realize that you have to come to a healthy medium of some sorts, right? And so
right?
instead of just saying, "Hey, tell this group no," right? Which I don't think any city manager worth their salt is going to do, anyways. Instead, it can say, "Okay, let me explain everything that this collective bargaining agreement does for the members." And like instead of just saying no, then let me lay out everything we already do through this collective bargaining agreement. And you can put
That's
that in the letter, and it kind of that softens the blow, but it brings things back to reality instead of allowing emotions and allowing the back and forth between I want this, you said no, and back and forth like that goes. Kind of ground truth it.
that's amazing. So what
Yeah.
else? Anything else that I can do that we haven't really talked about that you think is worth mentioning here?
So other ones you can do, and I mentioned this too, Joe, with ChatGPT 4 is the best way to do this, and folks can. It's the same process as I said to sign up for it. You're just going to go in and you'll sign up for the Plus account. But there's tool sets in there where you can literally copy and paste a PDF URL, put it into ChatGPT, and have it give you insights. So you can say a strategic plan document. You can copy paste it into the URL into the ChatGPT prompt box and say summarize this document. I like using this especially for grants. That's what you can do with ChatGPT is you can write grants because think about a typical federal grant is hundreds of pages long, and good luck finding everything that the city is responsible for in there. And so I can copy and paste that grant URL to ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT I'm the applicant, I'm a city in Arizona, whatever it is, give me a list of everything I'm responsible for under this grant. And instead of having to
That's
read a 300-page document, it'll spit out the list for me. I can even have it tell me, give me page numbers. And that way I can go back and double check it, verify the information, make sure it's accurate, and look at page, 215 and realize that, yes, I have to keep accurate financial records or something like that, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
super powerful. Speeds up the process. Things that was Joe, things that would typically take us a couple weeks to do now takes us about 30 minutes.
That's so hard to believe. It's just amazing.
It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's
yeah.
crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, oh. I know you are. I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but you are in the public safety field, right? In
Yeah.
Maricopa, City of Maricopa, right? Do you see public safety uses for ChatGPT, and if so, where and how?
I would say we are using it. Like
Okay.
literally this week, I walked in and one of my fire captains had ChatGPT up on his computer.
And what was he doing with it?
He was
Do you
creating
know?
he was creating a presentation or trying to create something for what we call our fire corps. We have a lot of volunteers that support our firefighters
Okay.
and go out and do rehab and things like that. We have a very strong volunteer base in our community that's really passionate and supportive of our men and women in the fire and police service. And so he was creating a presentation for some new members and using ChatGPT to do that. And
That's
so
amazing.
like we are using it on a day-to-day basis. I know my police chief uses it all the time. My fire chief, we often joke around. He wrote a story about the perspective of war from a dog's eyes. Asked ChatGPT to write that story, and he about cried doing that. It was pretty funny. But like everyone like in our office, this is a tool set that we are using on a day-to-day basis because we've seen its impact, we've seen what it can do, and it's revolutionizing our workplace. It's awesome.
Do you see it? There's a lot of agencies in large cities where police officers are bouncing around from call to call. Right, they're stacked up. I don't know exactly how
Yep.
busy Maricopa is. I'm sure you guys have some similar issues since you said you're the fastest growing city
Second,
in
second fastest. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
second. Sorry. So if you're, do you see an opportunity for police officers to use this for any report writing or anything else to help make them more efficient?
Absolutely. And actually, there was a city in Missouri, I think Wentzville, Missouri, I think it was, that was doing something similar to it. Now, it depends on how it depends on how your body camera is set up in terms of whether or not it's automatically transcribing your video.
Okay.
But if it is, you can definitely put that into ChatGPT. I would be a little careful with it just because it's not a secure environment. I'm waiting for the day, Joe, when someone can figure out how to make ChatGPT or a GPT model within a secured environment. So this way, right now, when I'm putting stuff, I'll let the listeners know too. When I put stuff into ChatGPT, I'm very sensitive about putting in, uh, you know, PII information that's specific, that's not published on the internet, right? So I'm very cautious of what I put into it because it's not a secured environment. I'm careful about that, right? So I think it's important to do that, have data security.
Okay.
So, and I'm waiting for the day, Joe, and I can't wait for this to happen. I think it's out. I think it's close by. I just don't know how to do it myself because I'm not a technical guy. Is for the day where we can build a chat GPT to like model within the walls of our own secured environment, right? And that way we can do those things you're talking about, right? If it's in a criminal justice information system secured environment, we can put our body cameras into there and have it analyze the video and have it give me the transcription of the video and have it spit out the police report as a result of that. I
That's
think those days are
amazing.
fast coming, and honestly, it might already be here, and I'm just not aware of it because that's how fast things are moving. It,
Yeah,
it
it's
might already be here.
well, and that's a good segue to talk about the fact that, hey, no one right now is behind, really, right? I mean,
No,
the train's not left the station yet, but I could see a year from now where if you haven't taken the steps to get up to speed on this technology, you could really be pretty far behind. So, do you agree with that? People need to get on board now, sooner rather than later.
so I would say this, Joe. I would say like you're already doing it right now. Whatever you're doing, just use ChatGPT for it, right?
Okay.
And so it's not like this huge learning curve. It's not like you have to learn a whole new system of something. It's just whatever you're doing right now, whatever you're thinking in your head in terms of when you sit down at the computer and write that memo out, just ask ChatGPT to do it for you and see what happens. It's really seamless. And I would say too, like even if so you can look at it perspective of, well, if I don't do it now, I'm gonna be left behind. The train's gonna leave the station. Right? That's one way to look at it. You can also look at it this way too. Joe, it's free.
Right.
It costs you nothing. It'll save you more time than you even realize. So why not try? Why not give it
Right.
a shot? If it doesn't work for you, then you move on. And you rely on the fact that you're an awesome, talented individual who will still make it in the world despite the ever changing technology that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked primarily about how you level up in your career, right?
Yeah.
How do you apply this technology in your day job to, produce results and, get, improve your career, right? Your trajectory
Yep.
and so forth and so on, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And do you see this technology being primarily beneficial to the public sector managers who are higher up in the organization, or do you see it more for the middle management type or management analysts and so forth and so on, or do you think it's just open season and fair game for everybody?
I think it's open season for everybody. And I would say
Okay.
if literally, Joe, if you are using a computer for work in any way, shape, or form, ChatGPT is for you. Like that's the barrier, right? That's it. If
Right.
you open your computer and we get to work, then ChatGPT is for you.
Okay. So we've talked about this professional workspace, workplace, how you can use it to benefit yourself and in your organization, right?
Yes.
How do you use this technology to benefit yourself in your personal life? Maybe when it comes to your job prospects or job
Yep.
searches or whatnot, or maybe even personal chores at home. I haven't even thought about that in that context. I don't know if you have either, but
I
where else
have
can you use this?
Yes, I have created a few family budgets using ChatGPT. A few shopping lists. It has a plugin through Instacart, and so I'm able to use some things that way too. But typically, when you apply for a job, what you're doing is you want to tailor your resume and your cover letter to match the tone and language and kind of overall style of the job description, right? That way, it kind of meshes the worlds together. It shows that you've done some research on it, shows that you understand kind of the vision and some of the keywords, maybe some of the buzzwords for that organization. And so when a job application comes up, say for that new city management gig that our ambitious department heads wants to go and level up the next career, they can take that job description. Maybe they want to take another document, say the strategic plan or something like that, come a guiding document that talks about the objectives and the mission statement of the city or something like that. They can take those two documents and they can tell ChatGPT, write a cover letter for this position based on the language of the strategic plan and the job description itself. Or they can go ahead and upload the resume and say, okay, ChatGPT, here's my resume, copy and paste it into there. I want you to update this using keywords found in the job description or the job ad.
Now, it's man, I don't think I don't know if I'd ever feel comfortable. Me personally, I'm kind of anal about my cover letters and resume. And again, it's a learning curve for me, so I got to get maybe more comfortable with the technology. But
Yeah.
I really think what I really see the benefit is from doing the organizational research, which is something where I feel like I really stand out in my recruitments. Is that when I go into a recruitment, I can almost guarantee you there's no other candidate who's out researched the organization, and I have a leg up in that area. And
Yeah.
this is literally kind of an equalizer because it can really take this technology and allow all the candidates. There's really no excuse now to not really research an organization and have some insight into what their issues are, and to be able to put forth to really communicate to the either the hiring committee or the governing body or the recruiters. Like, you can show like, hey, I've done some research on this organization with chat by using
Absolutely.
chat gpt.
Absolutely. And I always trust but verify, right? Always go back
Right.
and double check the work. But, I can, what would take you probably maybe half a day to look, maybe a couple hours. I'll give you a couple hours. You're a fast reader. You're a brilliant guy there, Joe. So think a couple hours to read through 5 years worth of budgets for a city, right? And to kind of understand what they're coming from, understand the basics of the budget there, get that level of insights. I can throw that into ChatGPT and do that in probably 1 to 2 minutes.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
and even
um
have it at the end spit out a chart that summarizes the whole thing altogether.
you
It's
know
just
we're getting
it's crazy.
we're getting close to the end of the hour here, so I want to kind of start wrapping up. But I will say this: you mentioned something a minute ago about trust but verify. There's
Yeah.
been some pretty high profile stories about Chat GPT, and there's one at least one attorney who got in hot water because they
That
didn't
was so
verify the
funny.
information, right? So
And
can you
Joe,
can you
Joe,
go into
having
that?
having worked in an attorney's in a prosecutor's office, I wasn't surprised. I gotta be honest with you. I was not that shocked, and yeah, like that's just some people are just bad at their jobs, Joe. That's what that is. And that's all that was.
So long story short on that is use ChatGPT, but you do gotta double check the work, right? It's not
Of
infallible.
course. Yeah, because that's your name's on the at the end of the line because people don't really care how you come up with it, whether or not you're putting it into the Word document yourself, whether ChatGPT is going to respond to your prompts that you put out. Your name's on it, and so it's important for the work that we produce. If we're high quality individuals, which I know we hope to be and aim to be, if we're that way, then our work should reflect the same thing too. And we want to make sure it's accurate, actionable, and able to make a difference.
Well, Micah, I just, I told you before, I think so much of you. I just think you're a really talented person. I'm really proud of the progress you're making. This conversation that we had in Kansas City has just blossomed into this whole journey that you're on. Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
both on parallel journeys. We're
Well,
both.
not parallels. You're about 30 light years ahead of me, and so I don't think it's parallel by any stretch of the imagination.
I appreciate
Perpendicular,
that.
maybe, but not parallel.
You're too kind. You're too kind. But I would say this, well, first of all, how do people get a hold of you? What's your YouTube handle? You've been doing some YouTube videos, and how people find you on YouTube?
So my YouTube handle is Gaudet GPT, and it's so as simple as that. At Gaudet GPT, you can find me on there. A lot of how-to videos. That's what I create most of the time. It's just how-to videos with ChatGPT, tailored to local government, because that's what I'm passionate about. So a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. I want to hit you with something else. Since I hit you with something in KC, I want to hit you with something here now on
Okay.
this interview, right?
Okay.
You know, I truly believe that there is a insatiable hunger or demand right now with public sector executives and middle management, so to speak, and management analysts that
Yeah.
these individuals they need to learn it, they want to learn it, but they don't really have the most efficient way or the time they can allocate and dedicate to doing it, right? And I
Yep.
really think that if you were to go out and build a course, a comprehensive course that would tackle some of these subjects, right? We're talking real world public sector applicability.
Yeah.
I think you'd have a great demand for that. And I really think that you might want to explore that. I mean, it's something we
Okay.
should talk about offline. I just think that now's the time to strike on this, and people want to learn. I know I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Micah, I want to learn more about ChatGPT. Where do I fit it in between my time at work, between the time working on a podcast? I don't have the time to go down all these different rabbit holes to learn something that you've already been going down those rabbit holes and already have some expertise in. And I
Yeah.
was wondering, would you give some consideration to maybe building out a course that we can individuals in the public sector can use to advance their career, provide value, and level up? Because at the end of the day, this journey that I'm on is designed to help the ambitious public sector executives level up, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is one way to do it, obviously.
And Joe, there's really nothing like it right now in terms of something that speaks specifically to local government. That's not theory, but it's actually actionable. There's really nothing like that for ChatGPT right now, and I think now is the time to kind of put something together and see if we can create some content that's valuable and worthwhile to our to the ambitious city managers that like listening to this podcast, like myself.
Awesome. My platform is growing. You've been very kind with your praise, and as of this recording, I'm in the top 20 in the government category on the Apple platform. It's just been an amazing journey to see where this is going. So my platform has been growing dramatically, and I really would like to, with your blessing, I'd like to maybe put a survey link or something in the show notes and on my platform, on my LinkedIn post when I push this episode out
Yeah, sounds
to
great.
gauge
Sounds
to
great.
gauge
Yeah.
yeah gauge what kind of interest people might have in a comprehensive course that's aimed at the public sector professional.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. I really appreciate your time. We're wrapping up here. Is there any other final words you might have, Micah, for the listeners?
Nope, none at all.
Okay, well, hey, I really appreciate you joining me. It's been a delight. I've really appreciated our friendship, our growing friendship, and I'm looking forward to getting closer, obviously, and getting to know you even better and working with you on projects in the future because I just know you're a really talented individual, and I really thank you for giving me an hour of your time on this podcast.
Happy to. My pleasure.
All right. So this is Joe Turner. I'm the host of City Manager Unfiltered, a podcast by a city manager for city managers and public sector executives. If you really like what you're hearing on this podcast, I would appreciate you to give me a rate and a review on the platform of your choice. I'd really appreciate it. And please do spread the word. I do get feedback from city managers who say that another city manager told them about it and they're excited. And I've gotten really, really positive feedback on the podcast so far. So I appreciate your time. And until next time, take it easy. Bye-bye.